Hi everyone. I welcome you all for this first day program, the first session on the topic an overview of DNA barcoding. So in this session, we are going to know about what is DNA barcoding, its applications, strength and weakness of the DNA barcoding for identification of species, and what are all the genes, marker genes involved in the identification of species at molecular level in both plants and animals, and the steps involved in the DNA barcoding technology. So these are all the things we are going to discuss in this first session. Okay, let me go into the first chapter, the overview of DNA barcoding. Next. Yeah. Let me give a background about the diversity of life. Why we should go for the DNA barcoding technology? Why we should apply the DNA barcoding technology? In which field which we should apply DNA barcoding technology? So before going into the knowledge on DNA barcoding, we should aware the current status of the diversity of life in the earth. So it has been estimated that the earth is provided with 10 to 100 million species of organisms. Imagine, it has been estimated nearly 10 to 100 million species in earth. But out of this 10 to 100 million species, only 1.9 million species have been identified, documented, and recorded. So imagine only 2% of the total species existing in the earth have been identified and documented systematically. And this table shows the number of species recorded in the different classes of animals and microbes, plants. Say for example in mammals, only 5,490 species have been recorded and documented. In the case of insects, nearly 10 lakh species. So similarly, this is data obtained from the IUCN Red List version. So this data clearly shows the number of species recorded as of now. It is estimated that this number may represent as little as half of the true number of species. Perhaps more than 1/3 of all the species are threatened. And this is a graph which shows the number of species identified and the number of species yet to be identified, that is undescribed. The blue colored horizontal bar shows the described species, whereas red bar shows the undescribed species. Say for example, in the insect, you see 50% of the species have been recorded and 15% are undescribed. See in the case of fungus, very less number of species have been identified out of the existing species. See in the bacteria, very less number of species have been identified. So this is the graph which clearly shows the status of various species, described and undescribed status. And this is the picture, shows the number of species of plants and animals in the entire earth. Here there is a big challenge for us, because out of 10 to 100 million species, we have identified only 2 million, nearly 2 million species. So what about the rest of the species? So we are very much lacking behind in exploring the species and identifying the species. So what we have to do? See, so 100 million species estimated, maximum number of species estimated is 100 million species. Minimum number of species estimated is 10 million species, but we have identified maximum of 2 million species. So what's the reason? So species identification can be done by the taxonomical procedure. So let me give brief about the taxonomy. So the taxonomy is the study of description and identification of species. The description and identification of species are the fundamental to the biology, so that one can utilize the biological resources. So without taxonomists, biologists in various disciplines would be unable to report their experimental findings. And biologists would be unable to access the available information on their target organisms. Suppose if we identify or if you do some experiment on the biologically active compound from various plants and animals, we have to report our findings with the species, in which species we have done this experiment, in which species we have isolated the compounds. So the naming, identifying the species is the foremost important to report our findings. So here, the taxonomy, it is a discipline in the biological science dedicated to discovering, describing, naming, and identifying species and other taxa. This is what we call, it is called as taxonomy. So it is the oldest biological discipline. We all know that taxonomy is the very oldest one. The Carl Linnaeus, 250 years back, he introduced the taxonomy system, that is binomial nomenclature of species. So it is a 20 years old discipline. So more than 20 years of work, but only fraction of species on the earth have been discovered and identified. So I already told only 2 million species, nearly 2 million species have been identified. To identify these 2 million species, we have taken 250 years to report the just 2 million species out of 10 to 100 million species estimated. So this is a very far from reaching the goal of taxonomy. Next. And why the taxonomy is so important? See, the global biodiversity is being lost at an unprecedented rate as a result of anthropological activities. So, due to anthropological activities, the diversity is being lost at alarming rate. So, we have to estimate the accurate the level of biodiversity in each and every habitat. Then only the decision makers can establish the protected area. Suppose if they don't know what is being protected, how the decision maker can establish protected areas? It's not possible. Similarly, how can the regulators can identify and combat the harmful invasive species if they cannot distinguish them from the native species? So, by assessing the invasive species, number of invasive species in a particular geographical location, then only the regulator can identify and combat the harmful effects of the species, invasive species. Similarly, without knowing the exact value and quantum of global biodiversity, how do the developing countries ensure that they reap the benefits of the use of biological diversity? Not possible. So what's the problem actually here? See, there is a taxonomic impediment. So the governments of many countries, through the Convention on Biological Diversity, the government of many countries have rightly acknowledged the existence of the taxonomic impediment to the sound management of biodiversity. They have acknowledged that there is a issue in adopting the traditional conventional taxonomy to assess the exact diversity of the earth. So the identification of large and charismatic animals, it is very easy to identify. But in the case of insects, plants, fungi and the microorganism, it is very difficult to identify all these invertebrates and microbes. So to identify these invertebrates and microbes, one needs the expert skills for the accurate identification. The traditional taxonomy took 250 years to provide the description for less than quarter of the world species using the tools of morphological keys. In the traditional method of identification of species, the professional taxonomists use morphological keys, but the morphological keys sometimes written by those who do not need. For those who cannot use them. So if you grasp the message from this quotation, that is the morphological keys written by those who do not need. The taxonomists do not need the morphological keys, but the keys are written by the taxonomist. At the same time, the taxonomical keys cannot be used by those who are not taxonomists. So the non-taxonomists or para-taxonomists, they cannot follow the morphological keys for the identification of the species. So this is the main impediment using the morphological keys in the conventional or morphological taxonomy. Then what are the limitations in the morphological taxonomy? We will see. So very few number of taxonomists available in the world. And these few taxonomists, they can identify less than 100 species during their lifetime. This is another limitation in the conventional taxonomy. Third one is lack of collection effort. So the species should be explored from the almost all kinds of the habitats of the earth, so that we can collect the large number of species and identify it, then we can document the species. So we are lacking behind in the collection of the species or organisms. Then another one is the uncertainty in identification. Even though the professional taxonomists identify the species, there are so many uncertainties in the identification of species. There are so many synonymous species, so many number of cryptic species available still. Still, there are unidentified, not confirmed species are there. And another limitation is the morpho differences, morpho-species differences. We will see one by one. So limitations in the morphological conventional taxonomy. The first one is, so you see in the picture the two different butterfly moth. So you can see the morphologically these two are very different. Next. Here you see the 4 different variety or species of cock. Then here the butterflies, then the molluscans and birds. So look at these pictures. In the first picture, these 2 moths are belonging to same species, but morphologically different. Similarly, in all the pictures, you can see the morphologically diversified species, but genetically they are same. This is what we call as morphospecies. So how do we determine whether the similar looking morphospecies from different locations are the same or different? Morphological based taxonomy is very difficult to differentiate this. Second one is linking adult and juvenile. So in many cases, particularly in the invertebrates, marine and freshwater invertebrates, fishes, amphibians and terrestrial invertebrates, the development is indirect. It starts from the egg, larva, pupa and adult. So it is very difficult to identify the larval forms. It is very difficult to link the larva to the respective adult based on the morphology, because the morphologically larva is entirely different from the adult. So it is important for the management of fisheries and marine bioregionalization. That is, linking juvenile into adult is very important in the fisheries management. So better understanding of dispersal patterns of adults and juveniles. This is also another important thing for the management. So the documenting the taxonomic diversity should not rely only on the adult specimens. This is happens in the morphology taxonomy. In morphology taxonomy, the adult specimens can only be used. But in the case of DNA barcoding, any kind of or any stage of life cycles can be used for the identification. And the fourth one is tracking life cycles of species. So for example, the life cycle of liver fluke, it starts from the vertebrate goat and it develops, it metamorphosed into different morphologically different forms. Say the Meracidium, its structure is entirely different. Then this Meracidium enters into the snail, mud snail, and inside the mud snail, the Meracidium metamorphosed into Cercaria species, which is morphologically distinct from Meracidium. Then the Metacercariaceae are released on the grass, microscopic one, and these Metacercaria are again taken by the goat. So here the different morphologically distinct forms of liver fluke can be seen. In species with complex life cycle, especially the parasites with multiple hosts, the conventional taxonomy fails to identify, but this can be done easily by DNA barcoding methods. The fifth one is the linking male and female morphologies. In certain insects, like dipterian and hymenopteran insects, the species is identified based on male genital morphology only. Female morphology is more conserved and useful at genetic alignment, but not species identity. So, in such cases, the morphological identification fails to distinguish the male and female species. So, documenting the taxonomic diversity should not rely on the male specimens only. Suppose male specimens not available, only we have female specimens, we cannot accurately say this is what the female specimen belongs to which species. It is very difficult in the morphology based taxonomy. Okay, then how do we compete complete the task of identifying the large number of species. So the limitations in the conventional taxonomy signals the need for a new approach to taxonomic recognition. So we saw the limitations now. All the limitations in the conventional taxonomy signal the need for the new approach, something new technology, something rapid and expedite technology for the fast identification and accurate identification of species. So what is it? It is nothing but DNA barcoding. It is otherwise called molecular taxonomy. So this new technology was proposed by Herbert Paul and his co-workers. They proposed the use of the molecular gene, cytochrome C oxidase subunit 1, shortly called CO1 gene, as a standard diagnostic region of mitochondrial DNA to help identify the species, to define the species boundary, and also to aid in species delimitations. And this CO1 is universally recognized marker for the molecular identification of species. Okay. Now we'll come to what is barcode. See, look at the picture in the right corner. It is a barcode. So we have seen this kind of barcode in the commercial products. So it is nothing but a universal product code symbol consisting of 11 variable positions with 10 possible numbers. The vertical bars with the different intensities. Each bar represents a specific characteristics of a product. So this barcode can assign a unique identifier to over 100 billion items. So this is universal product code, that is a general barcode. So the same technology can be applied to characterize these species. So let me define what is DNA barcode. DNA barcoding based on the use of a short DNA sequence which can be used to identify different species in the same way UPC barcode. So in 2003, Paul Herbert, researcher at University of Guelph on Ontario, Canada, who proposed the DNA barcoding as a way to identify the species. So he is the father of DNA barcoding technology. Okay, let me give a brief about the origin of DNA barcode. So more than 40 years ago, the starch gel electrophoresis of protein was used to identify certain fish species. Second stage is nearly 30 years ago, ribosomal DNA were used. In the late 1970s and 80s, the whole mitochondrial DNA are used to delimit the species. In 2003, the mitochondrial DNA, the specific gene, cytochrome oxidase subunit 1 gene, is used for the molecular identification of large number of species. Okay, in the mitochondrial DNA, which sequence to be used for the DNA barcoding? Here, the 16S RNA is used as a barcode gene for the identification of bacteria, whereas internal transcribed spacer region in the nuclear ribosomal RNA in fungi is used. In the case of plants, there are more genes are available, even then the two genes are most commonly used to identify the plant species. They are ribulose 1,5 biphosphate carboxylate and the methylase K, which are present in the chloroplasts. In the case of animals, Cytochrome oxidase subunit 1 gene in the mtDNA is used to identify large number of animal species. So this is the picture which clearly shows the region of CO1 gene in mitochondrial DNA. So animal cell, inside the animal cell you can see the mitochondria. Inside the mitochondria, number of the genome, mitochondrial genomes are there. And in the right hand side picture, the complete mitochondrial genome is represented. Here you can see the CO1 gene, the location of CO1 gene, which is called the DNA barcode gene for the identification of animals. In the mitochondrial DNA region, there are so many regions are there. Say for example, the control region or D loop, and this is used for the population genetic studies. Whereas 16S RNA and 18S RNA are used for the phylogenetic studies, and other genes ND1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, these regions are used to study the intraspecific variations. Another region ATPase synthetase 6 and 8, and this region is used to study the population level differences. And CO1, CO2, CO3, 3 marker genes for the DNA barcoding purpose. And the cytochrome oxidase B gene is for the species level studies. So these are the different regions of the mtDNA for different type of studies. Then why we should go for the mtDNA? What's the reason why we have to select the mtDNA gene for the DNA barcoding? So almost 20 years of research have established the utility of mtDNA sequences in differentiating among closely related animal species. There are 4 important properties which made the mtDNA suitable for identifying species. What are the 4 important properties? We will see one by one. Number 1, the first one is more copies of mtDNA. Here, there are 100 to 10,000 more copies of mtDNA are produced in a cell when compared to the nuclear DNA, copies of nuclear DNA. So in a single cell, 100 to 10,000 more copies of mtDNA can be produced. So this will help in the recovery, especially from the small and partially degraded samples, easier and cheaper. A small part of a organ is more than enough for the recovering of the whole genomic DNA. So this is the animated picture, mitochondrial DNA. So here the number of copies of the DNA is more when compared to the nuclear genomic DNA. The second property of mtDNA is fewer differences within the species. It is very important for the identification. Relatively few differences within species in most cases. Small intraspecific and large interspecific differences signal the distinct genetic boundaries between most species, which enable the precise identification with the exact barcode. So this is the graph which clearly shows the sequence percentage of sequence difference between the nuclear DNA and mitochondrial DNA. In mitochondrial DNA, the sequence difference is very high, 9% when compared to the nuclear DNA, where only 0.9% is shown here. And the third one is, another important property is absence of introns. Introns, they are non-coding regions interspersed between the coding regions of gene. These introns will impair the PCR amplification of the barcode gene. So the gene of interest should be absence of introns. Fortunately, in mtDNA there is no introns. So the introns are absent from mtDNA in most of the animal species. This makes the amplification very clear and straightforward. This is the mtDNA without introns. Next. And the fourth one is the inheritance of mitochondrial DNA is haploid mode. So haploid mode of inheritance, that is nothing but a maternal inheritance. You see the picture, the mitochondrial DNA is transferred from the mother, whereas the nuclear DNA is transferred from the both parents, that is mother and father. So the inheritance of mitochondrial DNA is from the mother, hence it is called a maternal inheritance. This is another important property of the mtDNA. Right. So, by the invention of this technology by Herbert Paul in 2003, a global science project has been proposed, that is Consortium for the Barcode of Life. This consortium have been developed to develop a standard protocol for DNA barcoding and also to construct a comprehensive DNA barcode library. So this makes every species count. So the International Barcode of Life, the initiator is Paul Herbert from the University of Guelph, Canada. A large-scale collaborative program to build comprehensive barcode registry for eukaryotic life. So this is the Consortium of Barcode of Life member organization in 2009. More than 200 member organization from 50 different countries, with 35 more member organization from 20 more developing countries. So these are the various barcode projects: Norwegian Barcode of Life, Polar Barcode of Life, then Mexican Barcode of Life, Japanese Barcode of Life, the Pakistan, then African, German, Colombia, Canada. So almost many countries, they have the International Barcode of Life project. So after the discovery of this technology in 2003, the number of publications, you can see the graph, the increased number of publications in the taxonomy and species identification papers. So this is a cumulative publication over time, 2003 to 18. You see the gradual increasing of number of publications after the discovery of DNA barcoding. And this is the eyeball target, International Barcode of Life target for the various group of animals. So this is a fish barcode of life, and a mammalian barcode of life, the Formicidae barcode of life, all birds barcoding initiative, Lepidoptera barcode of life, sponges barcode of life, Trichoptera, the marine barcode of life. So these are the various international barcode projects which are already available, and they have completed their target also within the stipulated period of time. Okay, now we will see the DNA barcoding and its applications, where the DNA barcoding is applied. Research DNA barcoding is applied as a research tool for improving species level taxonomy. So this technology applies to all life history stages and genders of the both plants and animals. And it is used to test the species boundaries and finding the new variants or new strains. Another important application is the DNA barcoding is an applied tool for identifying regulated species. What are the regulated species? The disease carrying vectors, agricultural pests, the invasive species. So all these species are called regulated species, and these species can be identified using the DNA barcoding. Similarly, the environmental parameters or environmental indicator animals, protected species, they can also be identified. Using the minimal samples, even damaged specimens, and even the gut content and droppings are more than enough to identify the species. And another application is triage tool. DNA barcoding is a triage tool for flagging potential new species. So undescribed and cryptic species can be identified through the molecular taxonomy. So let me tell you a small findings with a story. It is a fish story with DNA hook. In 2008, the 11th grade students in New York, they carried a market substitution study as a mini project. They surveyed 60 samples from 4 different restaurants and 10 different grocery stores. See, out of 60 samples, 54 samples were genetically identified. And out of 54, 13 were mislabeled. It represents 23%. So 23% of the samples are mislabeled one. Out of 4 restaurants, 2 restaurants, and out of 10 grocery stores, 6 stores had sold mislabeled fish. So see, so how the grocery stores and restaurants, they are they are cheating the consumers. So this project was completed, and the results were published in the journal Food Research International. It has been accepted. So see that this is a tuna fish. The meat of the tuna fish is costing about $8.5 in the whole scale rate. But many vendors or the restaurant people, they say the tilapia mosambica, the meat of tilapia species, which is very, very cheapest one, costing about $1.7. So this kind of fraudulence in the food that is happened. So this can be found with the help of DNA barcoding technology only, because we can take this small tissue from the sample or meat, then we can identify the species. Another one is the citizen science and education. Here, the DNA barcoding provides access to scientific records, allows non-scientists to browse and access species information, to educate or help make informed decisions. So the non-scientific people or general public, they can access what the species is and the properties or characters of the species with the live scanner. So say for example, the app will be uploaded or downloaded in the mobile. So with the help of the app, we can scan the DNA barcodes. This is a DNA barcode. If you scan the DNA barcode which is labeled in the particular specimen, then you will find out what the species, where it is, and all the properties that we can see. So very common people can identify the species by scanning the DNA barcodes. Then advantages of DNA barcoding. So this technology offers alternative to taxonomic identification tool for situations in which the morphology is inconclusive. Morphology based identification sometimes leads the inconclusive one. So that can be rectified by DNA barcoding technology. Another advantage is potential capacity for high throughput and processing large number of samples. So this DNA barcoding technology is the basis for the next generation sequencing technology. Then once the reference database is established in the BOLD or NCBI, that database can be utilized by the non-specialist. And the cost of the DNA sequencing is slowly dropping due to the technical advancements. Then the strength of the DNA barcoding. So what are the strengths in this technology? So this technology offers alternative taxonomic identification tool for the situation in which morphology is failed or inconclusive. It focuses on one or a small number of genes which provides greater efficiency of effort. Another strength is the cost of DNA sequencing is dropping, as I already told you. And the potential capacity for high throughput like next generation sequencing technology, and we can process large number of samples in a limited time. So the reference database can be utilized with non-specialists. So these are the strength of the DNA barcoding. So there are some weakness in utilizing this technology. Example, assumes that the intra-specific variation is negligible or at least lower than interspecific values. This is the weakness of using the empty DNA specific gene. And another one is that no single gene will work for all taxa. There are certain other genes which are specific to the specific species. So the CO1 gene is not appropriate for plants or even some animals. So this is some weakness in DNA barcoding. And this single gene approach is less precise than using the multiple genes. Then views towards the barcoding. There are so many people, they perceive the DNA barcoding in different angle and different views. Say for example, ecologists, what they are saying is, this is what they need, how soon can they get started? This is the statement of the ecologist. And the statement of professional and traditional taxonomist, what they are saying is, species should be based on lot of characters, not just barcodes. So they are claiming, the professional taxonomists are claiming that the species identification should be based on the lot of characteristics. Whereas the forward-looking taxonomist, so the current generation taxonomist, what they are saying is, using molecular data as a species diagnostics is not a new one, but standardization and broad implementation are great. So this is a statement of the current generation taxonomist. Whereas the barcode practitioners like us, what we are saying is, it is at least as good as traditional approaches to discovering new species. It is very easy to discover the new species by adopting the DNA barcoding technology. Despite these criticisms, DNA barcoding has gained considerable acceptance from research communities across the globe. The total barcode specimens is 6 million plus, consisting of 60,000 animals, 21,000 plus plants, and the fungi and other species represents 5,54,000. So this is the data obtained from the barcode of life database. So all these specimens were given the bin number, that is barcode index number. The data is available in the barcode of life database system. And let me share my field of research. So I am a professional taxonomist of Ascidians, and our team has adapted the DNA barcoding technology for the identification of Ascidians in the Indian coast. So far we have barcoded around 257 plus species, and the total number of countries involved is 39. Among these, India alone has 28 Ascidian barcodes, which represents 70 more species with 47 bin clusters. This is the status of Indian Ascidians. Next. See, this is the picture taken from the screenshot from the bold system. So here I am proudly saying this, that our college ranked second in depositing the barcodes of Ascidians. So 204 barcodes available in the bold system when compared to other countries. So India represents 507 specimens when compared to other countries. Then this is the result of our own Ascidian species, which we collected and recorded from the Indian coast. So these are some examples shown here. The DNA barcodes which we have developed for the different species of Ascidians. See, these are the DNA barcodes which we have developed. More than 65 species we have barcoded, and more than 350 sequences we have deposited in the gene bank, NCBI. So what is the future of DNA technology? See, a taxonomic GPS will be developed. So this will link the reference database. So anyone can identify by using this taxonomic GPS. It is a usable one by non-specialist. Okay, so this is our research lab and this is our research team in our Department of Biotechnology, Islamia College. This is our research team. Okay, thank you for patient listens. Thank you one and all.